Hello, YouTube friends. Dustin Bellinger here, and I'm here to share one of my biggest pickups so far. I mean, really, in terms of the size of the item, and also perhaps just in the significance of it. It is, as you can tell from the title, this is going to be a Babe Ruth item, and it is a premium from 1934. This is a Babe Ruth Quaker Oats Babe Ruth Baseball Club premium. And as you can see from the pictures I'll show here, it's definitely got a little bit of some rough edges, some issues, significant crease that goes down the center of it, and also some creasing on the bottom half as well that you can see there. And you can see kind of the rough edges and that, and a little bit of deterioration. And you notice it's got a very kind of a cool facsimile inscription, "To my pal from Babe Ruth." So you can kind of see here that this would have been intended for kids during the time period. And as I said, this is a Babe Ruth Baseball Club premium from Quaker Oats. And to give you a little bit of background about the Babe Ruth Baseball Club, this was a endeavor that Quaker Oats did in 1934, 1935 time period in partnership with Babe Ruth as an endorsement. And I've got an image here that you can see of a actual advertisement for the Babe Ruth Baseball Club here, and it references sending in your box tops to receive a membership badge, and that you had the ability to win prizes and that. And there's, if you do some searching, there's some kind of cool things that you can find. There's actually some articles that I've come across where it's like local newspapers have done some stories on, some kids that actually won some of these prizes from the Babe Ruth Baseball Club and were able to make a trip to New York or Chicago or wherever to spring training. I think was one time that kids were able to do that and meet Babe Ruth through this advertising campaign that Quaker Oats did. Now there's some very cool items that are available, that kind of relics from this thing. You saw the ad reference is the Babe Ruth Baseball Club membership badge, and that was actually a pin, which I've got an image of here that you can see. It was about the size of a quarter, and you could pin it to your clothing. And these are relatively common. You can find them on eBay. They sell at auctions quite frequently. And for a Babe Ruth item from that time period, this is about as affordable of an item as you'll find. I do see some lesser condition ones that'll sell for under $100 at times. So it is something that can be picked up. Another item that was very common, and it was similar to this premium that I've got, which was a redemption item, where you would send in your box tops to receive it and get it mailed to you. Another common one that seems to be very popular, because you'll see them around a lot, is this scorer's fob that I've got pictured here. It had Babe Ruth's picture from his Boston Braves uniform right there, and it's got on the other side, it had little dials that you could turn and keep track of the score of the game in the hand, the count at the plate and the number of outs and that. So those are just some cool things to give you a little bit of history here on the Babe Ruth Baseball Club and where this premium comes from. And this premium, I think, is really cool. It had to have been, really amazing for kids of that time period to be able to, you send, a cereal box, couple cereal box tops in to get yourself what was an 8x10 poster of the Babe Ruth. That had to have been pretty amazing. I mean, this was towards the tail end of his career, but he was still Babe Ruth, and here he is, in Yankee pinstripes and taking a big, massive cut, and you can see him watching a ball sail off there into the distance, probably, a batting practice type photo. And this item, I would say the survival rate on these is probably pretty low. I would imagine a lot of them were, pinned and put on kids' walls, and eventually, when they came down, they just, they didn't survive and weren't saved in very nice condition and anywhere near the quantities that they were distributed. And also, they're larger size, they're 8x10, and the stock is not a cardboard stock. This is, I would say it's a thicker paper stock, but it's still a paper stock. It's more, kind of a poster paper, photo paper stock. It's kind of like a large glossy photo as far as what the feel of the stock is on it. So, certainly something that, was relatively fragile for it to have lasted 80 years is pretty amazing. So, hey, why did I end up with this item instead of maybe another one? Because if you remember back to one of videos at the start of the year where I was doing, some goal cards for the year, I believe it was a response video for Mike O. One of the cards I had selected was a Sanella Margarine Babe Ruth. And actually, that was kind of the item that I've been hunting throughout the year. And I ended up finding this premium through just doing searches for that, because the auction house that I found this item in also had a Sanella Ruth up for auction. And that item here, I've got it pictured here. Now it's just kind of show, this is why I ended up deciding I kind of wanted the premium. One thing, obviously, it's just, a great image, and I love the oversized nature of the premium, especially, you kind of compare it to what else is out there and available for Babe Ruth. He can be really tough to acquire. And so here you can see the Sanella Margarine card, and these were produced over in Germany. So they're very, the writing on the back of them it's in a foreign language, and these are still, pretty popular, but, some people don't care for them all that much. And the size on these is similar to, say, a 1964 Topps Giants card. This one here that you see pictured, it was in a SGC 20, so that would be like a 1.5, and it sold for $100 and, well, probably close to $200 when it was shipped out. And you compare that to the $120 shipped that I paid for my premium, going saving that extra $60 or actually 80 was, you know, certainly attractive to me. And to have it be a item that I just, you know, think's kind of cooler is just pretty special, and I think fits more into my collection and the things I like best. And now, the one other Babe Ruth card that sold in that same auction house, I think's kind of interesting to show you here, is this one right here. It's a strip card from the 1920s, so it's a little bit earlier than the premium, but you notice this item here, it's much smaller, so, and it's in very rough condition, and yet this card here, this strip card in PSA Authentic, sold for over $500. And so that's a pretty significant difference in price. If, you know, you're somebody that's locked into, I've got to get something that meets like the traditional definition of a card, where, you know, even a strip card can, some people, you know, aesthetically aren't very fond of those. And so that gives you an idea just what you're looking at if you would try to acquire a Babe Ruth item that's relatively inexpensive. It can be quite a challenge when those are the types of prices that you're dealing with. Hey, and while I've got you here, I wanted to kind of go talk about something that it's just something that this premium makes me think about, is, you know, this idea that Babe Ruth is often portrayed as a very large, as a fat person, and is portrayed as somebody that's overweight and heavy. And, you know, take a look at this picture here. And now this was distributed in 1934 and was probably taken, you know, earlier than that. But as you can see, he's not an overweight, fat person by any means, and you can, you know, tell that he was a large man and a very stout person, especially for the time in which he lived, but by no means was he overweight and heavy throughout this portion of his playing days. And, you know, he probably did get to out of shape at times and maybe a little bit overweight, but when you compare to, say, some of today's players that are more known for being rotund, like, say, Prince Fielder, Bartolo Colon, CC Sabathia, Pablo Sandoval, his physique would never reach a point where it resembled any of those guys. I would say, you know, if there was maybe something contemporary, perhaps, you know, towards the end of his career, might have looked similar to, you know, say Willie Stargell did at the end of his, where you got a little bit of a protruding belly, and, you know, you can definitely see that you're not as felt as you used to be, and you're certainly not at the same level of fitness. But the portrayal of him is just, you know, a big, large, fat guy is really more of a myth than anything else. Okay, anyway, this video's gone way longer than I anticipated it going. So, hey, I hope you liked seeing this item. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you all later. Take care.